Hello fashion lovers, welcome to another video. So today we're making this beautiful sleeveless bodysuit. If this is something you're interested in, you want to keep watching. So I have my pattern paper laid in front of me. As we all know, we're making this sleeveless bodysuit that's on the screen right now. And I've gone ahead to take the horizontal positions. So what I have here, I took my bust point of 10 inches and I also went down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. And from that point, I marked the waistline. And from the waist, I marked the crotch depth. Now to get the crotch depth, I have a picture up here that describes how that is done. To do that, you're basically going to sit on a flat surface with your back straight and measure from your waist to the flat surface. And that is what I did, and I got 9 inches. So my crotch depth for the front is 9 inches. So I marked the 9 inches from the waist point. That is the line I have there. That's the crotch line. From my waist to that point is 9 inches because the crotch depth is 9 inches. And the other line you're seeing before the crotch depth is the hip point. So when I was taking the overall measurement, my hip point is 20 inches. And from that crotch line, I'm extending it with 5 inches for the back crotch. This is because I'm drafting the back and the front pattern on the same sheet. So this is the armhole depth, the waistline, the hip point, the crotch, and the back crotch. So this is what we have respectively. Next, I'm going to measure the neck depth of 3 inches for the front and the neck width of 3 inches for both back and front. And then the neck depth for the back is 1.5 inches. So this is what I have. Now on the armhole line, I'm just going to find the midpoint and mark it right there. At that point, I'm going to go in by 1 inch, and I'm going to mark that point also. On the bust line, I'm going to go in by 1/4 of my bust measurement. That is my bust measurement divided by 4. I'm just going to mark it, and I'll also add 1 inch allowance, 1 inch seam allowance. If the fabric you're using is stretchy, you don't need to add any allowance at all. The fabric I'm using is pretty steady, so that's why I'm adding it. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these 3 points to create the armhole. If you have watched to this point, I want to say a big thank you. Please consider subscribing, subscribe and like. Now this is a 2-in-1 pattern drafting I'm doing here. I'm drafting the back and the front piece together. So as we proceed with this video, you're going to understand better. So just keep watching, stick with me. Now, after getting the armhole, the next thing I'm going to do is go in by 1/4 of the waist measurements, just as I did for the bust. So I'm just going to mark it and also mark the 1 inch allowance. Remember, if the fabric you're using is stretchy, you don't need to add any allowance. So yeah, but if it's not stretchy, you can just add 1 inch allowance as I'm doing right now. So yeah. After the waist measurements, next you're going to take 1/4 of the hip measurement as well on the hip line, the hip point. So I'm going by 1/4 of the hip measurement and adding 1 inch allowance as well. Now I'm just going to, I'll go on the crotch line, the first crotch line, the one for the front, the one we measured 9 inches from the waist. And I'll mark 1 inch from the center piece. From the center point, 1 inch from that point. You're just going to go in by 1 inch. So I'll connect it, but before I do that, I'm going to connect the waist to the hip line. So just watch as I'm doing this and you're going to understand exactly what I'm doing. So I'm connecting from the waist to the hip line now. You can see how I position the pattern master. So now the next thing to do is connect from that hip point to the 1 inch we marked on the crotch line. I don't know if you get this, but you can see what I'm doing. You're basically connecting from that 1 inch on the crotch line to the hip point. Let it have that curve. Yeah, it's very important. And I also went down by ½ an inch for seam. So that is it for the front bodice. This is the front bodice. Now on the other crotch line, the one that we extended by 5 inches, I'm also marking 1 inch at the center piece, and I'm going to connect it and blend it in with the first curve I have. So I am basically connecting the two crotches together, if that makes sense. And this is what we have. The first crotch line is for the front piece and the second is for the back piece. Now I'm just going to bolden these lines and cut this out. But I'm cutting out the back pattern first because the back pattern has the longer tail. The one that is longer, the longer crotch is for the back piece. I'm cutting out the back piece first before I adjust the measurements to fit the front. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. This is the back neckline, so I'm cutting out the back piece first. And here we have our back piece, so I'm just going to place it on the fabric and cut it out before I go ahead with the front pattern. Now this is the fabric I'm using. I don't really know the name of this fabric, but this is what I'm using for this tutorial, and I'm just going to place the pattern on it, pin it down, and cut it out. So just watch as I'm doing all of that. So guys, this is what we have here. I'm just going to remove all of this paint. This is what the back piece look like. Y'all, I don't want this video to be too long, so we're going to have a part 2 of how we're going to cut out the front and fix everything together. So make sure you don't miss that. I'll see you in the next tutorial. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Bye bye.